Hey, what's going on, people? Guns blazing once again. I just got home from a long trip over the weekend, so the content release might be a little slow to start us off this week, but I hope to catch up. Anyways, this is my 3-star Demotion deck that I used to climb to the top 4 on the ladder in the Final Qualifiers in North America. And obviously I dropped down to rank 5 after, but this got me to top 4, and I wanted to explain my choices behind these cards as well as why it worked. I wasn't really talking that much while I was playing during the qualifiers, so instead of doing the audio from the actual clips, I'm just gonna explain my thoughts on the new cards from the level cap increase. So killing 2 birds with 1 stone, or so they say. Anyways, we got triple barrel dragon in this deck. This is probably the big dog of the deck. So as you know, this card can destroy any monster your opponent controls if you roll 2 heads, pulling out some clutch wins for me throughout the entire tournament. And to protect it, to back it up, we got rare metal, which protects us from Econ Take, protects us from Mask of the Curse, which was common with all the weevils running around, things like that. We also got D-Gate to cover weaknesses of rare metamorph. As you know, rare metamorph doesn't prevent you from being ordered to charge into, and so that's why we have Dimension Gate. And this guy also protects you from things like Relinquished, trying to suck up your Barrel Dragon or whatever. And because we're running 2 Dimension Gates, we're also running 1 Storm, which helps us with the back row a little, and also frees our Barrel Dragon from the Dimension Gate if the opponent just refuses to attack into us. 1 enemy controller for the protection. We're also looking to protect Sergeant Electro so that he can pin down more cards for us. 3 Super Machi was a must because in addition to having to cover the cost of 3-star Demotion, if you draw Supremacy Berry against Tay or Weevil, you're in a very good spot. Like, you're usually going to win the game. 1 Soul Exchange, and this helps us to get our Machine King out, and it destroys one of their key monsters at the same time. So you can have some comeback plays with this Soul Exchange card. You can even use it with enemy controller. You can even use it to tribute 1 monster of your own plus 1 of their monsters to get out a Barrel Dragon. And a big reason this deck was successful is that it's not completely based on using 3-star demo to get a level 7 monster out. Rather, we have Machine King, which, while you can use 3-star Demotion to get it out, we can also just sacrifice one of our mons or Soul Exchange it out, which gives us options. And the reason I'm using Machine King instead of BES Big Core is because Machine King is unlimited in the amount of battles it has, as long as, something doesn't overpower it. The thing with BES Big Core is that if it gets switched into defense mode, it's very open to, just a bunch of monsters running into it and taking out all those tokens at once. Also, Machine King has higher attack potential, so it could possibly be 2400, 2500, while BES is always 2300. Another thing is that you can use 3-star Demotion and then set Machine King, which you can't do with BES Big Core, because if you set BES Big Core, it doesn't start off with any counters, so it just immediately gets destroyed if it gets into a battle. The reason I ran Cocoon of Evolution is because it's a counter to Jade Insect Whistle, so instead of having to pick up a Parasite and taking 1000 damage, we instead get this guy, which could also be tribute fodder for Machine King, as well as it's a good defense against those more aggressive decks, such as Handless Beatdown, because its 2000 defense can stop Flash Assailant's 2000 attack, and also walls out against Harpies, which were very common as well. Sergeant Electro gives us an option to summon a level 4 monster instead of having to rely on 3-star demo, as I said. Having a Barrel Dragon and a Sergeant Electro out on the field at the same time is a very good combination. We got that monster destruction, and then we got that back row pinning. Oh yeah, and of course we got the Crystal Seer, because this card helps the consistency of the deck. I hope to have some videos for you soon on the new cards, as well as the Mokuba farming decks, so stay tuned for those. Enjoy the clips, and have yourselves a good one. Okay, so let's take a look at these new cards, starting with Vandalgion the Dark Dragon Lord. At first I thought it was just another Dark Voltanis, with the special summon after you use a counter trap card and negate something. But then I saw that this card is very different for Dark Voltanis, much better, because it does not require a tribute of a dark monster to special summon it onto the field after you negate something. And so this means we can potentially use this card in a deck that runs 3 Champions Vigilance as a secondary boss. Imagine having a Blue Eyes out on the field, using Vigilance on something, special summoning this guy, and Yeah, that's just a huge board swing. And then depending on what we negated, we can activate one of these effects, which are all pretty strong in their own right. So I am expecting this guy to see a little play in Champion's Vigilance decks. We'll see how it goes. The next card, Sorcerer of Dark Magic, I don't rate too highly because while it does have great stats and a great effect in unlimited trap card negation, the special summoning condition is way too costly. So you have to tribute 2 level 6 or higher spellcaster type monsters. We're talking, you know, maybe Dark Magician Girl, Sage Stone into a Dark Magician, and then tribute both of them just to get this guy out. Pause for a second and think if that's worth it. You know, trap negation is great, but some problems can be dealt with by just, you know, negating traps. What if this guy gets ordered to charge into, is what I'm trying to say here. Or if he attacks into a Yomi shift. Anyways, next card. Next up we got Wheeler, who has access to Copycat for some reason. And this card is decent. I think the best potential this card has is in a Power of Darkness spellcaster deck, because once it copies the monster's attack, it can also go over it through the boost of Yami, assuming that their monster is also not Yami boosted. Apart from that, it's only gonna tie your opponent's strongest monsters, so it's not that great. Although you can, you know, if they have more than one monster, copy their strongest monster and then attack into their weaker monsters. Alright, next up we got Blue Flame Swordsman, very decently statted for a level 4 monster. Same stats as Gearfried actually. It has an interesting effect where you can transfer its 600 attack to another monster. And then his next effect is that if it's destroyed by battle or card effect by your opponent, then you can banish it and then target one warrior fire type monster from your graveyard and special summon it. Now the only 2 fire warriors that I know of are Phoenix Gearfried and Knight of the Red Lotus. So that effect is like, it's not that great, to be honest. Alright, so my Valentine has some new Amazonesses to play with. I think Trainee is pretty garbage. The effect isn't all that great, to be honest. And then Amazones is pretty decent. It's 1800 by itself since it does boost itself. And 1900 if you have one other. I still don't think Amazones is an archetype that has enough support in the game yet to make it a viable deck to play. Teia's got access to Dark Burning Attack, which if you have a Dark Magician Girl on the field, you destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls. Now it's kind of sad that it doesn't include the face downs as well, but that would be pretty busted. Now the question is it worth running this card in a, you know, for example, a 3-star Demotion Dark Magician deck that has 3 Dark Magician Girls? The answer is maybe, because you might want to deal with other 3-star Demotion decks that are running cards that are stronger than your Dark Magician and your Dark Magician Girl. But then we ask the question, can't Thousand Knives just do the same thing? So, next card. Mystic Walk. Interesting effect, but I don't think it's going to be that great because it doesn't give you an advantage on the board at all. As a matter of fact, you have to tribute a monster. So, I'm just going to go ahead and say this card isn't worth it. Weevil's got another one of these. It's one of his previous rewards again, just repeated. DNA Surgery, I don't think it's worth it. It doesn't give you any immediate advantage. It's always got to be comboed, and then you're down 1 card just because you have to play this card, which doesn't actually give you any advantage by itself. Rex's new level 7 Dino is pretty garbage. I wouldn't run it. The defense is low too. Fossil Dig is good though. Just think of it as, you know, thinning for your Dino deck. I think Mako is one of the characters that got the best benefits out of this whole, you know, level cap increase, because we got beautiful. I'm just gonna call it Tuna Princess, but you know, deck thinning. Once you normal special summon it, you can banish it to then special summon 1 lower level 4 or lower fish type monster from your deck. So you can get a Hammer Shark or Reno out, and that's gonna thin your deck a little bit. So very decent card. Fish Death Charge is just amazing. So you tribute 1 fish type monster, destroy 1 card on the field, any 1 card. That's flexible. And then you draw a card, which is, it makes the card a +1. That's crazy. Like, I fear how good this card is. Bakura just picks up another Goblin Zombie, which is a previous reward as well. Then we got Dark Ruler Hades, which is a good card. 2450, that's the second highest out of level 6 tribute summonable monsters, second only to Summon Skull. The brutal thing about this card is that it negates the effect of monsters destroyed by battle, with Fiend type monsters you control, so including this guy, and then any other Fiend type monsters you control. So Fiend decks, you got a boss right here. Keith picks up a 7 completed. It's good, but nothing too new, nothing too crazy. And then he's got Time Machine, which is okay, because you can re-special summon a monster that was destroyed by battle. So you know, Stall or Mill decks can get their Yomi ship back, they can get their Needleworm back. I don't think it's going to be that crazy because this card is susceptible to, you know, Sergeant Electro pin or removal, because you can't activate it unless, you know, the monster is actually destroyed by battle. Overall, not that great. Thick Shizu is picking up Drag Down into the Grave. Nothing too crazy. Doesn't give you an advantage really, because your opponent gets to do the same thing to you, except you just -1 because you play this card. And we got Mudora, which is high defense, but to really get rolling, you need fairy type monsters in your grave, and unless you have at least 2, it's really not that strong. So it's too slow to be considered a good card in my eyes. Alright, so Odeon is picking up Regulation of Tribe, which in my eyes it's too situational and too costly to keep up, but you might see a couple of people running it just to, you know, cuck the dragon decks or any decks that run only one type of monster. Magic Planter is an okay effect because you get to draw 2 cards by sending 1 face-up continuous trap card. And there is a deck that I want to explore it in that, you know, uses Des Counterblow and Solemn Wishes and things like that. But we'll have to see how good that deck actually is with this card. My boy Maximilian is picking up another Mimicat, nothing new. And then we got Toon Kingdom, which is a backup Toon World. It's also treated as Toon World while it's on the field. This might lead people to, you know, run Toon and also include Magic Reflector to protect the Toon Kingdom. And now if your Toons get destroyed by battle or card effect, you can actually protect them from being destroyed by banishing 1 card from the top of your deck face down. And also while this is on the field, your opponent can't target your Toon monsters with card effects. So that's actually pretty strong, but again, I don't think it's enough to make It's a Toon World decks good, or good enough to compete with everything else. Last but not least, we got the Paradox Brothers, which are picking up Anti, and this card has potential in, you know, decks that run high-level monsters, such as 3-star Demotion decks or Blue Eyes decks. So if your opponent is running all low-level monsters or all lower-level monsters than you, you can pretty much bully them with this card, because they have to discard that and take 1,000 damage. But the thing is, if this playstyle or this deck type gets more popular, then this card will lose power because everyone's just running, you know, high-level monsters, so you can't really abuse it. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that card. And Lost Guardian is not that great, but I do see some potential in it, in, you know, those magnet decks that also run Mega Rock Dragon. So once you have a bunch of banished rock type monsters, this guy's defense is gonna be crazy. They might get baited into attacking into it and just straight up losing the duel in one attack. But yeah, I don't think that's a likely scenario. Anyways, that's it for my thoughts on the new cards from the increased level cap. Alright, so now the level up rewards are out of the way, but we still got a whole, I think, 20 minutes of video to, you know, talk through, or else you might get bored just watching the footage with no talking in the background. And so I prepared some topics to talk to you about today. You'll find that on the left. If you want to skip to any given topic, be my guest, I don't mind. But first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone, all the subs on YouTube and Twitch, all the followers, all the donators. Thank you very much for your support. I really appreciate it. Your positive comments, your contributions really motivate me and allow me to continue doing what I'm doing. And I never expected this channel to grow this fast. Honestly, when I first started out, it was just, you know, doing it for fun, doing it as a side thing, you know, while I was still hunting for a job and whatnot. And it turns out it became my job. Whether I'm going to continue pursuing this as a full-time career, who knows? I probably will. That looks like that's the direction my life is headed into. And obviously, you know, it's not I can't rely on Duel Links forever, you know. So the next thing I want to talk about is branching out on YouTube. If you guys have any suggestions for games that I should branch out onto on my channel, that would be much appreciated. Games that you wouldn't mind seeing. on top of Duel Links content. I will probably still be playing Duel Links for a very long time and making my main content Duel Links. But I'm just saying, you know, Duel Links won't be around forever. You know, one day I might get tired of it. I don't see that happening anytime soon. But when that day comes, you know, it's nice to have something to fall back on. It's nice to diversify the channel so that, you know, if Duel Links comes crashing down, we also have some backups to go into. And I'm also wondering, you know, if I should upload every single different game on the same channel, or if I should create a separate channel so I can separate the Duel Links channel and then everything else, like all the other games. Alright, so let's talk about some other things. Let's talk about some game related things. So 3-star demotion, is the skill OP? Is it way too strong? This is something people have been talking about ever since the skill came out. You know, getting a level 7 monster out as a level 4 monster, that's pretty busted, right? And I do agree that this skill is way too strong. Being a user of it myself and seeing it constantly on the ladder and in the final qualifiers, it defines the meta. Like, if you're not playing 3-star demotion, you're gonna have to play cards that try to counter 3-star demotion, or else you're gonna have a very bad win rate when you go up against a lot of them. And the thing is, it's so common now. It's gonna continue to get more common as more people unlock the skill. It is a drop skill. And the reason I don't like this skill getting popular is not only because it's so strong, but it makes the game uninteractive. And what this means is that not only does it quicken the pace of the game to 2 to 4 turns, the game is usually decided by then, or when you're playing 3-star demo, it takes out all the little nuances, the outplay potential, the skill in the game, because it all comes down to, sometimes it just comes down to who goes first and who goes second, and whoever gets their coin flip on their Barrel Dragon or whatnot, and whoever pulls a better starting hand. So some examples of the interactivity this skill causes is that sometimes they can get their Dark Magician or whatever level 7 normal monster they have on the first turn right out, and then they set Champion's Vigilance, and then you can't do much against that unless you're running some back row removal. And then on top of the back row removal, you have to have a way to overpower the huge monster that's on the board. Another uninteractive scenario it causes is the Barrel Dragon problem. And Barrel Dragon was never meant to be a monster that you could just get out there right away, because the effect is so strong. It hinges the game on an RNG coin flip, similar to, you know, Taya Burn, where if they destroy your monster through the double heads of Barrel Dragon, then you're in a very bad situation. And it even destroys the whole counterplay component, because even if you do run Yomi Ship and Hain and things like that to counter 3-star demotion, if they get their Barrel Dragon out and they get double heads on that monster, it's not gonna matter, you know? Konami, if you're watching this video, let it be known that 3-star demotion is way too strong of a skill. You need to tone it down a bit, my boys. You need to tone it down. And I don't know how you're gonna do that. Some people have suggested, you know, keeping the monsters at level 4 at all times instead of reverting back to level 7. This way you can't really, you know, combine it with Champion's Vigilance, and also it makes the monster susceptible to 4-star Ladybug. Others have suggested that it shouldn't be, you know, just pay 2,000 life points. Maybe it should be after you take 2,000 points of damage that you can use the skill. And that would make it similar to something like Roll and Boost. By the way, it's pretty much just Roll and Boost on extreme steroids, this skill. Another way to nerf it would probably be to, you know, just make it limited uses per duel, like 1 or 2 uses. Alright, so the next issue I want to talk about is similar, and it's that Konami is releasing packs way too fast. And a lot of people will agree with this because, you know, with the measly amount of free-to-play gems that Konami gives, it's not enough for the average player who doesn't want to spend too much money, doesn't want to spend too much time at the game, to always be able to keep up with the latest cards. And that's a problem. You know, and not only are they releasing packs way too fast, but the power creep has been going too much. The power creep is too much, I mean, compared to before. They used to do a better job of keeping the packs at relatively the same power level, maybe slightly stronger, but it was more like adding new archetypes to the game rather than just adding stronger cards to the game. But with a new box, we can clearly see that the power creep is on some next level. One example is Angus Beef, 1800 attack for a rare. That used to be an ultra rare. And I think Konami is being too greedy with this one. They're trying to milk people's credit cards so that they're always buying the latest cards every single time. And while this might give them more money in the short term, in the long term they're going to lose players because, you know, people are going to be fed up with not being able to have the latest cards without shelling out tons of cash. And that's going to hurt their player base. So Konami, take it from me, take it however you want it. I think you should slow down the packs, the pack releases, and the power creep. Alright, next up, let's talk about Mokuba's drops. I'm not gonna pull up the cards on the screen for you. I don't have much to say about Mokuba's drops, except I like Dark Flare Dragon. It's one of the easiest special summoning from the grave requirement monsters, you know, similar to Desert Twister. Has 2400 attack, so that's good. Light and Dark are very good attributes too. There's like, you know, Sphere Karibo. You can feed it into that, and also what I run is Skelengel for the card draw for my last gamble, Dark Flare Dragon. I haven't fully tested its full potential yet because I only have one drop of it so far, but it's looking like it has potential, man. And also, it's not limited to special summoning. You can also tribute summon it. I think the best card from Mokuba, I actually have not used it yet because I don't have one yet, is Kid Moto Dragon. And Kid Moto Dragon is a very broad activation effect to special summon any dragon type monster from your hand. So as long as it's sent to the graveyard, this could be through battle, it could be through discarding by last gamble, discarding by anything, or, you know, pulled from the deck and sent to the graveyard, and then you can special summon a dragon from your hand. I think that's really good, except the only downside is no battle phase if you pop the effect on your turn. So I think we're definitely going to see a lot of Kid Moto Dragon. As for the other drops, I think they're mediocre, to be honest. The Apocryph card is a very weakly statted monster. I don't think you're gonna wanna, you know, waste your summon or set for the turn just to get the boy out and use its mediocre effect. Something White Beacon is like, we don't have enough Blue Eyes cards to make the card, you know, worthwhile. The only Blue Eyes cards we have are Blue Eyes and Toon Blue Eyes, and to get 3 of those in the grave is like too much of a chore. Alright, so let me quickly talk about social media. My only 2 accounts on social media are GNSBLZNG, and that's on Twitter and on Instagram. For now, I only usually have time to check Twitter, so I don't really respond to Instagram. But if I ever go to like Worlds or anything, I'll probably be uploading photos onto Instagram. That's the only thing. So if you want to talk to the boys, send me deck lists and stuff, do it on Twitter. Also, I noticed that a lot of people are having, you know, similar names to me. I don't know if they're trying to, you know, be imposters of me, or they're just they just like the name. On Reddit, there's a lot of names similar to gunsblazing. My name on Reddit is also GNSBLZNG. That's just gunsblazing without the vowels. And I rarely post on Reddit, so if you see a gunsblazing on Reddit, it's most likely not your boy. Alright, so the next issue with Duel Links that I want to address is what I call the going second problem. Because I do believe that going first has a much lower win rate than going second. And it's because the advantages of going first are heavily outweighed by the advantages of going second. So going first, you get to get a monster out, you get to get your stuff down. But going second, you get an extra, you go up 1 card against the opponent because they don't have a draw phase on the first turn. And so, not only does this extra card give you more consistency, there's a huge chance to brick on the first turn when you only have a 4-card starting hand. But for the second turn player, they have 5 cards, so a lot less chance to brick. Also, you have more resources than your opponent. So all you have to really do is equalize on the board, which is very easy to do, going second, and then you're inevitably going to win the game. And this is very easily accomplished by, you know, things like storm combos. So if you're going second, and let's say you're playing handless Balance, and you pick up a storm, and your opponent has set, you know, their stuff face down, and they play a monster, all you really have to do is, you know, Wild Tornado storm the board, clear their stuff, and get your monster out, and already it's like you've won the game because they've started off with less resources than you. You've equalized the board, and you still have more cards in. That's one of the more extreme scenarios, but the bottom line is, going second, you have more consistency, and you have more resources. So, I don't know if Konami will ever do anything about this. This is pretty much what Duel Links is based on. But I think, you know, if they take statistics and do find out that going second has a much higher win rate than going first, then they should definitely do something to, rebalance this aspect of the game. Alright, next up, let's talk about, the whole format that KC Cup and the qualifiers took. And people are ranting and complaining that it's too much of a grind fest, it's too much of a time investment to be able to place highly. And while I agree that you do need a lot of time, you do need a lot of duels, it is not the main defining factor. Someone with an extremely high win rate, but not as much time, will do better than someone who has a very mediocre win rate, but they're playing like 24 hours a day throughout the entire qualifiers. And the biggest example I want to give of this is Decade, aka Duel Links Meta, the first place in NA, who he didn't actually have to grind that much. He played most of his games on the first and I think the start of the second day, but he got to 140k DP. How he accomplished this was that he had a very high win rate. I think it was around 80%, and thanks to that, he was able to, hit 140k top spot or top 1 or 2 very early into the qualifiers, and then he could afford to have a break the rest of the way. So I disagree that qualifiers is all about the grindfest, and it's all about whoever has more time. You do need a decent amount of time, but above that, the most important thing is win rate. So don't take away from anybody's skill that, they just grinded more than everyone else, and that's why they're at the top. Win rate matters. Alright, so last thing I want to talk about. First of all, I apologize that this has been somewhat of a ranty video, but I did want to get some thoughts out there, some info out there. Last thing I want to talk about is that the Duel Links community is sometimes way too savage when it comes to people making misplays. And don't get me wrong, I do appreciate it when I get called out for my misplays because it allows me to improve my game, see the better plays that I could have made in the situations. So shout out to those guys who keep it civil, but there's some people that, just go way too ham, go way too savage, all up with the hating, the berating for making the misplays. One example that really comes to mind is when Shady Penguin made a video about Gearfried the Swordmaster. It was a Twitch highlight on YouTube, and he made a few misplays in the video, and people were just super savage about it. Wouldn't give the guy any leeway for the misplays that he made, and it just got to the point where it was like hating, berating, people with a huge sense of superiority, thinking that, they're perfect duelists that never make a misplay in their life. And at that point, it gets annoying. And I also want to defend my fellow YouTuber streamers because they know this problem that, when you're playing the game and live streaming at the same time, your mind is split. Like, the resources of your brain are split into, focusing on the game as well as responding to the chat and taking a look at the chat. And naturally, when it's like that, you're going to make misplays. So keep those things in mind. As for myself, I know that my quality of gameplay and skill level has gone down in the past few streams, and I think the way I can improve that is that I should test out my decks more before I go into the stream instead of just making my decks on the fly and then heading into ranked just blindly, So I do hope that the usual level of skill returns to the stream, and I'm gonna try my best to give you guys the best quality contents and duels that I can give, but at the same time be understanding not only to myself but to anyone that streams and plays. Don't go too savage on your friendly neighborhood YouTuber streamers, because we're people too, and we're just trying to have a little fun just like you guys. Anyways, that's all I gotta say. Hopefully this whole talk and commentary thing was not too weird or different from my usual, and that you got something from it. Take care of yourselves. This is Gunsblazing, signing out.